What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Parables podcast. I got my man Mickey Guerra. Did I say that right?
Close,
Close, man. I murdered that, huh?
It's all good. I got the natural R roll, so I
Oh,
don't blame
okay.
you. You're good.
Dude, man, I appreciate you, man. I've been trying to get Mickey for, I think, 3 months now.
Yeah.
And, dude, we were just talking about, him coming out here. I appreciate with all the traffic and everything, man, you traveling here. Eastville's not an easy place to get to, but yeah, like I said, dude, I love to just kind of have a natural, laid back conversation with my guests, man. Kind of, have that intimate conversation. And the pure intent of the podcast is really for us to share a conversation, everything leading up to where you are today. And hopefully people who listen are able to, gain something out of it.
Yeah,
whether it's a lesson, knowledge, wisdom,
Cool.
Things like that. So anyway, man, let's get a little background about you, because and what's funny is the best episodes that I've had are actually people I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think it's safe to say we don't know each other yet.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I know of you,
Right.
but it just makes that a conversation more authentic. So anyway, let's get a background about you and get to know you.
Yeah.
Where exactly did you grow up, and things like that.
So I was born in Echo Park.
Okay.
Raised in a small city called Arleta, California.
Okay.
Shares the zip code with a city that might be a little better known called Pacoima.
Okay.
It's a pretty big gang city, or was. Everybody's kind of gentrifying.
Uh-huh.
But grew up in Arleta, and that's really where I was raised, which is the San Fernando Valley.
Mm-hmm.
Which the 818, we represent.
Uh-huh.
And so that's really where I spent most of my childhood, high school, and so forth.
Okay, so you've been there pretty much all of your younger.
Most of my life, yeah. Actually, It's crazy. I've always been such a Valley guy and a kid, and I'm I want eventually when I grow my family, I would love to just stay in the Valley. That was my total mentality.
Yeah.
Up until about 2 years ago, I was like, you know what? I just want to try this city life. You see all this cool stuff on TVs. You see the penthouse. You see the lofts, the cool cribs, and the views.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just motivated. And for about a year, I tried out living downtown LA.
Mm-hmm.
That beautiful sound of somebody getting robbed.
I was gonna say all the honks, or maybe yelling.
It's a little shady. You there's definitely people breaking up in the middle of the night. There's the ambulances, all of that's real. You're just well, just kind of it just becomes a natural background soundtrack. And then and of course in the morning, you wake up to construction and you're just yo, this is crazy.
Uh-huh.
But I kind of got used to it and I liked it.
Uh-huh.
Everything's accessible. People are all accessible. And for me at the time when we were expanding locations for my store,
Mm-hmm.
it just put me in a central position when we expanded into the Orange County area.
Yeah.
So I tried that out for about a year, and then I was like, man, I'm still a Valley guy.
Yeah.
So I head back. I'm still back in the Valley now.
You're still back now?
Yeah. That's where our flagship is at and all that.
Okay. I don't travel to that area a lot,
Right.
but I understand, you were saying, it's kind of a dangerous spot a little bit too. Yeah. Or has it changed a little bit?
Downtown or
around Echo Park area?
Well, Echo Park is no, actually, what's crazy is just like the IE, it's developed immensely.
Okay.
Right. And many other neighborhoods and things like that. As prices rise and real estate goes up, there's just certain desired areas that are unfortunately unattainable unless you're really killing and super successful. So I think a lot of people are just finding their ways and converting these neighborhoods that used to be known as dangerous or whatever the case may be. Downtown was different 2-3 years ago.
Definitely. Yeah. Definitely.
You still gotta Euro step past a homeless dude sometimes, but at the end of the day, it's a much more developed area, and a lot of changes are coming. It's cleaning up.
Yeah. Do you feel that the Valley where you grew up has definitely played a part of who you are, or did a lot of it come after that too?
Absolutely. I think the Valley is just a part of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
In many ways, because where I first started my business, where I first started my relationships and at the core of it all is really where I grew up and the people I grew up around.
Mm-hmm.
And so, our flagship store, the Magnolia Park,
Mm-hmm.
that originated in Burbank, California. And I think what really made us who we are
Yeah.
is where we are,
Yeah.
and where we're from. And it's, you might not be familiar because you don't travel down that way much, but
Yeah.
the difference between going to a, let's call it well-known, established, matured veteran store like a Flight Club, like a Riff,
Yeah.
people don't want to drive over the hill.
Gotcha. Okay.
And it's literally the Hollywood, between the Valley and Hollywood Hills, or if you're on the 405, you're going into like Brentwood, Santa Monica.
And that's the
UCLA.
busier area, right?
I mean, it's busy. You're dealing with a little more traffic.
Yeah. Okay.
Like it's a little tougher to get around.
Mm-hmm.
In the Valley, 5 miles is going to take you 10 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
15 minutes. That could be 30, 40, an hour
Yeah.
on the other side of the hill. So I think what we offer is just a little more laid back of a vibe,
Mm-hmm.
laid back neighborhood. And that's really why I think we've been able to kind of make a name for ourselves as well.
That's cool, man. Let's talk about let's go back to where you grew up. How did you just kind of fall into the culture a little bit? Like, let's talk about how like everything set up to your to Magnolia Park.
Yeah. So and I think it all comes back around that, right? Because I think sometimes like what defines who I am as a persona and a platform.
Definitely.
Where I grew up, or how that kind of has evolved into this where I am today, really has to do with just like I grew up in this kind of community
Okay.
of people, friends, families who it all revolved around, like keeping your kid off the street.
Okay.
Right. So it's really easy to fall into those other things. And at the end of the day, for me, what's really shaped who I am and my character and just like what I'm about is sports.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of team, the idea of trying to be unselfish, which is like the hardest part to learn when you're really young.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I want to shoot the shot. Like, and it builds around that. And I think it also builds around the friendships that you develop at those times, early on. And I think going to this park and rec center, actually, shout out to Brantford Park Rec Center. That's literally where some of my best friends to this day, we're still in touch. We're still a part of this like kind of larger family. We may not see each other every day, but at the end of the day, those are the people that have shaped my life, shaped who I am, and we've been there for each other.
Mm-hmm.
Our parents used to hang out together. Like, we'd literally pull up on a Saturday, have our basketball games, and we'd either play together or against each other. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
right? Yeah.
Well, no, like actual like team,
like
team league.
Oh, okay, nice.
And
nice.
You're getting your Capri Sun and chips afterwards. You know what I mean? That whole vibe. And after that was done, somebody was holding down the barbecue and like a table for all of us to just like cook out, hang out, and that was just the vibe.
Sounds like very family oriented community.
Yeah, 100%. Right? And then, there's the drama, the talking behind the backs and typical, all that, and all typical like just community stuff, and it's gonna happen. And I think this is pre-social media, so it's like it's not as like exposed. But it's what we knew. We just wanted to play sports all day, and that's really what kind of shaped all of like my friends and myself, and to this day some of my closest friends. And so that really is the core, because Magnolia Park, which for many doesn't have like this defined name, or like what's Magnolia Park, right? Like
you think like an identity maybe, or
I think just people don't know its full definition.
Okay.
In the sense of, because this is a funny story. Like, we were supposed to call Magnolia Park originally, one of the names that was thrown out there was Community, right, with no I, because it was like the trendy thing. Okay. It was a trendy thing to like leave out a vowel,
leave out a letter, right?
Like leave out a letter. And then you could flip it to like there's no I in Community. Mm-hmm. And then branding wise, a C like looked better than an M and a P. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad we didn't do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And really, when we named the shop. Sorry, hopefully I'm not skipping ahead, but I just want to get to the fact that like Magnolia Park is essentially just a reflection of my childhood.
Nice.
In the sense of the reason why there's a basketball court is because I grew up playing ball.
Yeah.
You know, the reason there's a DJ booth in every store is because I DJ for 10 years.
Yeah.
The reason there's artwork on the wall is because of the influence. And the way I got into this whole world, honestly, was just playing sports and wanting to be like Mike, you know, to be like Allen Iverson, to be like Vince Carter, and just being influenced by their style of hustle and play and heart. And specifically with Allen Iverson, like that was like my guy.
That's your guy, right?
Like,
okay.
It was like, man, like wouldn't skip a beat, wouldn't skip a shoe. Like, that was my dude from, you know, 6th grade or whatever on. And that really was like the like seed that planted the garden to where I ended up kind of just being a consumer. I didn't understand the business side of it for quite some time, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But it definitely was the foundation, being a consumer and just wanting to have that shoe or that item. You know, I think I remember pulling up to a homecoming dance or like a winter formal, and like I had like an Allen Iverson like cardigan, like you who buys that? You know, you might buy the jersey, you might buy like the shooting sleeve or the you know, but I had the sweaters, like you know, I had the outerwear. So that's how that's how deep I was into that part of influence.
Well, there was people too who were rocking like the headbands too, right?
Facts. Yeah. So, you know, it's just crazy. Like that was just my guy. I rode for him. I remember going to, gosh, what year was that? Was that 2001 when Allen beat them when they were supposed to go undefeated, game 1?
Yeah.
Right?
I remember that game.
I know.
Like yesterday, bro.
I think every Laker fan will always remember that because they were annoyed that they didn't run through the whole playoffs.
Yeah.
And I was that annoying kid, and I didn't even have an Iverson jersey at the time that fit me.
Yeah.
But I took my little brother's, threw it on my backpack. And then just walked around school like, "What's up? Y'all brave. What's up?" Like, you know, like, you know, don't underestimate heart and passion and just, you know, what he did for the game and what he did for culture.
Definitely,
you know, influence.
He paved the way, pioneered the way for sure, no question.
Yeah. So he influenced me a lot in just wanting to be a part of that world. As a consumer and that was really kind of the first kind of baby steps. You know, I never looked at sneakers as a business. I looked at it as just something I liked. And, you know, fast forward into like the end of my high school years, I started a brand with some friends. Okay. And, you know, you're young, you're dumb, you're like, you don't really know what's going on. And
kind of like doing it for fun mostly.
I mean, we had a funny name. It was called, it stood for RBC, you know, and like they came up with this name primarily because like we all played ball, we all hung out, and they just needed a name for this tournament. I didn't even play in this tournament, but you know, they're my boys. I support them. It's all love, and they came up with this name as RBC for our little clique, and the clique stood for rice, beans, and crackers. And so, which you can guess, like, you know,
nice. Okay.
So, you know, as a bean of the group, you know, we embraced it. Yeah. It was fun, and we just call ourselves RBC. And then I was kind of like an extension of the group because I transferred out my senior year to go play basketball for another high school.
Oh, nice. Okay.
It was a tough decision. Like, you know, my friends hated me for it because we were supposed to stick it out and like work through it, but like, the coaching staff and that school just like was having a hard time developing, and they hadn't won a game in like a varsity basketball game in a long time. So I kind of KD'd it and like left.
So you left strictly for ball or was
strictly for basketball?
Wow.
Yeah. I made up a bunch of different lies with the approval of my parents to like leave school and kind of get permission to not sit out for a year. Just to go play my senior year at another high school. Damn. And they were kind of more. They were already more established in the sense of like, you know, playing in tournaments, making improvements, and there were a couple guys that I grew up with as well that were there. Yeah. And I was heavily influenced by my brother Joseph Hample, DJ Danger Zone. He kind of helped like the move happen.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I did it. That's how much I love ball. Ball was life.
Dude, I was just gonna say, see, this is interesting because, like, again, like we're just getting to know each other.
Yeah.
I knew you were into ball, but man, that just speaks on how much ball is life to you, man.
Yeah, no, it meant the world for me at
Yeah.
the time. You know, I was probably telling everybody like I'd get like a "Only the Strong Survive" tattoo at some point.
Yeah.
You know, like Alan.
Yeah.
And I was just really into it, and like,
Yeah.
you know, at the end of the day though, like I'm a Hispanic dude, 5'10". Like,
Yeah.
what are the odds of me like pursuing a career in basketball? Like, that sounds like funny as heck.
Yeah.
But I, you know, I definitely had goals and aspirations to go play in college, and
Yeah.
at least at the JUCO level,
Yeah.
at the very least. Which, you know, I tried out for a team, and I'm just like, man, this is different. Like, this is a whole different ball game.
Definitely.
But yeah, man. So then, kind of taking it back to the original road about this brand, we started the brand, and I remember having this like meeting with my friends. You know, we're all playing ball, different schools or whatever. And we get together. Our parents are close.
Mm-hmm.
They know each other. And we're like, yo, we want to invest into this thing. So we're trying to ask our parents for money.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really happening. And so I was like, man, like, I want to do this, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so fresh out of high school, we're still kind of playing with designs and like what we want to do.
Yeah.
And we also realized, like, you can't put out a brand that stands for rice, beans, and crackers. Like, you got to be a little politically correct.
Yeah,
you know, if you're going to try and put
thank
this
God,
out.
Thank God, right?
Right. So I'm driving around, and I got my real estate license not too far out of high school.
Okay.
I think it was like when I was 19, and had gotten some money and like had gotten some ideas. And so I remember driving, calling my buddy, and I was just like, yo, like, what if we turned RBC into something else? Like, what if we turned it into a different name? And I came up with Relations Beyond Color, which flipped the whole like race card into a more positive outlook.
Absolutely.
More of something acceptable to like wear. And based on the designs, you know, there's a couple designs that came through, and we're like, all right, like maybe we could run this.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I've always been kind of I don't want to wait around. Like, I want to get shit done.
Well, just
I'd like let's go, you know?
Yeah.
And if anything falls off, or if anything, like, you know, we lose track of something, like, we'll go back and we'll fix it.
Yeah.
You know? And so I made that young error of like not consulting with my friends and just going forward with the brand kind of on my own.
You kind of just made choices.
Made decisions.
Gotcha.
Like made, you know, and at the time, like I don't understand screen printing. I don't understand, you know, setup fees. I don't understand minimums. Like, I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna go call like this like reputable place. I'm gonna make 250 white t-shirts with the same design, with the Hanes tag on it, like, just trying to get it out. And so I do this on my own. I fund it by myself, and I just take a shot in the dark. Mm-hmm. And what I ended up doing was I got my friends that turned on me, and rightfully so. You know, I did something without their permission, with something that we worked on together. And I just learned that you can't go off and make 250 white shirts without a formal format or a following. I probably wouldn't do 250 Mag Park shirts today. And we have a solid following and you know, support. And so
there's definitely a lot of thought processes what you're trying to say behind all this stuff.
Now like and then it was just like I just want to get shit done. And you know, it backfired. I lost my friends for a couple years. It was a tough one. And, you know, like at the time it was like, what, MySpace? Like, you know, so all we had was a MySpace page. And trying to push it forward. And so just learned a lot, man. And what it ended up doing was just kind of giving me this lesson and appreciation for, you know, doing things at kind of the pace that it should be getting done versus like forcing things through.
Definitely learning from your mistakes.
100%.
Yeah. Around what age were you at this time?
18, 19.
18, 19.
Yeah, because I got my real estate license when I was 19.
Did you do real estate for a while?
Yeah, so I did it for like probably a couple months, really.
Oh, okay.
which is crazy because like my license lasted 4 years, right? So I got my license in 2004, and I remember getting it on my first try, which
Nice.
I think bothered my mom more than it excited
Why?
her,
Why?
because it took her a couple tries.
Oh, okay,
You know what I
gotcha.
mean? And don't get me wrong, like that's like really common. Like it takes a couple tries.
Yeah.
But I signed up for this class that literally was like teaching you the hacks of how to beat the real estate course.
Yeah, yeah.
And like literally things where it's like, oh, if you see the word
The
clock,
trigger word or something?
yeah,
Yeah.
if you see the word clock, like the answer is D. And you're just
Yeah.
like, why? And I was like, don't worry about it.
Just
Just do it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I did it, and I remember turning in my exam. Nobody else was done.
Yeah.
And I'm like done, and I'm thinking like, should I wait? Should I reread this?
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
no, like I answered everything. I'm like, this is weird. I'm out of here in like 30 minutes, and you're supposed to have 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I got things to do. Like I'm like a young kid. I'm
Yeah.
like, I got things to do. So I was like, I told my parents, I'm like, yeah, I knocked it out in 30 minutes. And they're just like, what? Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And I was like, what? No, like, I'm like, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
Sit there? Like, I'm like, I feel okay about it.
And then you ended up
and then I ended up passing.
Yeah.
And it was like a barely passing score.
Yeah.
But I made them proud in the sense I got my license. They've been in real estate for quite some time.
Okay. Okay.
My
gotcha.
dad was a
That's
broker.
kind of why you got into it.
Yeah,
then, right?
I definitely, dude. I've been showing houses since I was like 4.
Okay.
Being a salesman was like easy, right?
Yeah.
Like this room is intimate, or this
Oh, yeah.
color.
Okay.
All it needs is a little bit of paint. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You got to show all the positives, and so I was definitely heavily influenced by my parents in the sense of like just being able to like communicate, sales, personality, like hospitality, all those different things I've been observing for such a long time, because real estate, at the end of the day, you really are an entrepreneur yourself, right? Like you're knocking out, unless you have a team, and those things have all developed obviously in the last couple of years where people are using social media in their own ways.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're hosting an open house, when you're printing up your own flyers,
it's like you. It's like your own, like
you're your own business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I was just gonna ask, because obviously well, first off,
Yeah.
After we stopped recording, I want to know what school you went to so I could get out.
Right. I gotta look that up. It's been a long time.
But I was gonna say, with real estate, right? Some of the skills I would imagine a real estate agent needs is, of course, like communication needs to be key. They have to be knowledgeable.
Yeah.
And following up and all that stuff. So did those skills that you were able to accumulate definitely kind of help translate to your skills when starting your business and all that stuff?
100%. I think that just prepared me for different kinds of people.
Okay.
Like I remember being a young kid with my dad showing a property, and this this white dude was just like, wow, you don't have an accent. To me.
Yeah.
And I was just like, of course I don't.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, oh, that's cute. I'm like,
yeah.
Just
you were born here though, right?
Yeah, yeah. I was born in the States. But he just, he saw a little Hispanic kid, and he's just like, why doesn't he talk like, I don't know, Speedy Gonzalez or whatever? Like, And I was just like laughing, and I was like, okay, I get it. Like, I mean, just dealing with people, right? My dad, of course, like seeing that, he's like, all right, like I get it, but I'm not going to press the button. But definitely real estate like plays a huge role in my personality as a business person, my ability to keep cool. When I did real estate, like I said, I only did for a couple months. I did one medium-sized sale and like a loan and a couple different things, and then it set me off. Like I was able to fund what then became my next chapter, which was becoming a DJ.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, and so that happened really through my friend Joe, who was in New Mexico State. He was playing baseball on a scholarship, and he was kind of bored. He didn't drink. He didn't party. He's not as boring as he sounds, but he just wanted to find a way to kind of stay busy and still be kind of productive. And so he started to DJ parties. He's like, forget it. Like I'm gonna capitalize on my friends being drunk and doing whatever. So then, I picked up an interest with him doing it. And I remember buying my first pair of turntables and just being like, man, like this is tough. Like, how do you do this? And I just wanted something to get away from the desk. So I then got advice from him saying like, yo, there's this DJ school in LA just opened up.
Interesting.
And
Okay.
it's called Scratch DJ Academy. And I attended and literally like didn't know how to plug. Like if you asked me to plug in this camera, like I'd be like, how? Back then.
You're just the guy that just
like had no idea what the heck was going on.
Yeah.
Like at most, like plug your headphones in. That's all I knew.
Yeah.
But you know, they teach you from you know, literally scratch to what's going on, like, and how to connect things, and you know what a baby scratch is, how to mix 2 records with beats per minute. Like they teach you the whole foundation,
like the technicalities and the fundamentals.
Yeah,
basically.
all the fundamentals. They just can't, you know, obviously you can't teach the sauce. That's the part. And so I attended there, made some amazing friends, and that became kind of the next chapter of my life where, you know, I just fell in love with music. I fell in love with the opportunity to control a crowd, the opportunity to just kind of like bring worlds together through music. I attended this concert in 2005. It was like September 2005. And Scratch was actually sponsoring it.
Oh, nice.
And it was a DJ competition. But I had no idea that it was a DJ competition because I was there just to go see, they had Talib Kweli and Common performing. And I still remember this day, the opening DJ was Diplo. Like he was just like background music.
Yeah.
The guy emceeing was Madlib. And I was just hyped off, like checking out Talib and Common. And then they have this DJ competition before the concert. And I'm like, yo, this is crazy. Like, I cannot believe that these guys are doing this with their hands, the noises and whatever else. And so it really just like shifted my life. Along with, at the time, College Dropout had already came out.
Oh, man.
And Kanye pulls up in the middle of the concert and performs Gold Digger, Jesus Walks, and Through the Wire. Yeah. And you're just like, yo, like, this
life-changing moment,
like,
right? Definitely.
We'll never forget that night.
Yeah.
I still remember having the poster and like the ticket like in my wall for the longest time. And after that, man, I was just like, I got to DJ. Yeah. I got to find a way to DJ.
So did the brand kind of take a backseat a little bit, or?
The brand just at the end of the day ultimately failed.
Okay.
Yeah. And so like I just literally sat on a bunch of shirts. By going to this school, actually, it's good that you bring it back up, because I had all this excess of shirts, and I was starting to have access to people that like I looked up to. Yeah.
Because of music, right?
Mr. Chalk of the Beat Junkies, for example, right? Like super influential guy, was on Power 106. And I was just like, yo, like, you know, I have this brand, like, would you rock this shirt? Yeah, man. You know, Chalk's such a nice guy. He was just like, not to say that my design was whack, but you know, he was just willing to like rock it and like support it. And so to me, that was kind of like the first bit of like that influential marketing. Yeah. That might have played
the early
days of influential marketing. Yeah. So just like, you know, when Kanye was wearing LRG, you're like, yo, I gotta rock LRG. Yeah. You know, and so with that, you know, it's just like, yeah, here's a shirt, like, you know, if you wear it, cool, you know, I appreciate it. And that was kind of like the beginning steps. Yeah. While I'm going there, I think it was at that time that my little brother started going to, no, he's still in high school. But anyway, my DJ stuff leads into a little bit of networking and developing people that I know, relationships and connections, kind of getting to understand a different side of business as well. And so at that point, I started getting booked for corporate gigs, which is like another level of, you know, you can't just go in like, and not that I do these things, right? But especially at the time, like, or any time, but like DJs are like very like laid back. Yeah. Some guys will smoke some weed. Yeah. At the time, not as acceptable. It's like now, right? It's a different view. But or you know, they party, they drink. Yeah. And so to be like a working DJ in the nightclub and then go do a corporate gig during the day, you know, and I wasn't doing nightclubs at the time because I was just turning 21, hadn't gotten that experience or opportunities. So I was taking advantage of the things I would get booked for, which were like corporate gigs. Like I'd literally be in the middle of a Bloomingdale's, like DJing like Madonna and Michael Jackson, and Prince or whatever. And at the time, like I was pulling like records, like crates of records. And I'm always been kind of a big guy. So I'm just like breaking a sweat, like dying, carrying this table.
It's just you too, right?
And it's just me.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
I wasn't
one-man
able to afford like no assistant or helper.
Did you have a DJ name, by the way?
Yeah. So my DJ name was Mickey War.
Okay.
So everybody,
Mickey War.
Mickey War. My real name's Michael Guerra, right? So Mickey comes from Michael. I always had just kind of that nickname. Joe actually gave me that nickname, and Mickey kind of stuck. And then my last name Guerra means war in Spanish. So that's just kind of how it came together. And I didn't like it at first.
Yeah.
Apparently, I don't like a lot of things at first, and then I just like adapt.
Yeah.
But Mickey
you
War,
accept it.
Yeah, I accept it
later. That's how I am.
And it
too.
just kind of stuck, man. And everybody, even my parents to this day, like they call me Mickey. So it's like just part of who I am. And so that was my DJ name. And then I was knocking out corporate gigs, led to bigger opportunities. I did this gig for the Truth.org, the anti-tobacco company at the time.
Yeah.
And that eventually led into doing the Vans Warped Tour in 2008.
Nice.
I did the entire tour with Vans and Truth, and literally, man, woke up in a different city every other day.
Damn. So it was like a new opportunity just kept going and going and going.
Yeah, like it was just like, I mean, we would just set up a truck. I would DJ. They had people who would engage with customers and clientele, collect emails. They would give free merchandise in return for the email. And they were just, collecting data and just trying to push the idea of like, not using tobacco.
Yeah.
And so for me, that was like a big corporate gig. I had like no expenses. They were cutting a decent sized check.
Yeah.
And it just led me into all these new opportunities and opened my eyes. And when I came back, that's when I decided, I was like, okay, this corporate stuff was fun, but I think I want to start DJing out in nightclubs.
Okay.
And then when I started trying to expand into that business or that part of my career, my brother started his clothing brand, which was called WAR, that stood for We Are Royalty. And he was slanging shirts out the back of his trunk at UCR, and like just, it was very nostalgic based brand. And it really hit off, for him. And I'm happy, because like I feel like in many ways my failures helped him kind of like learn and at least foresee the things he can avoid and how to approach things.
Exactly.
And so a big part of my life, or I think any entrepreneur's life, is you have to make adjustments. Like if you keep doing the same things, like you're just going to keep ending up in that same
you have to evolve
wall,
right?
Always. And you have to just pay attention to the things that are coming at you, how to avoid them or how to embrace them. Can you change it, can you not? And so I think my brother did a really great job of that early on. I give Andy a ton of credit because he's much more book smart than I am, in the sense of like just being like non-emotional to a decision.
Is he more would you say patient and practical? Because you said that you like to get things
I like to
done
just
right
go.
away.
And you know what? And a lot of what I do is and this is paid off, and this is also like blown up in my face, but like a lot of what I do is off emotion, gut, trust. Like I always look and try to see the best in someone. And I've definitely had moments where that's paid off for me, and I've definitely had moments where that's
totally screwed me over
and set me back. And so I take all of those losses though, like with great pride, and just know that there's always a forward progress in whatever the result is.
Well, so, I think, dude, when you talk about like making decisions, there's like science that proves like when you go with your gut's like your second brain. So, but then like the thing that's different with you though is that when you had those, those things that blew up in your face, you just were able to move on and kind of just adapt, like you said, and evolve, right? Yeah,
for sure. I think everything plays a role in how you move next. I think to this day I do make decisions off my gut. But it's for sure more calculated. definitely more thought is put into it.
Mm.
And I take a second opinion. Like
Of course,
now,
just like everyone
there's a
does.
team now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like before, when it's you and yourself, and you're only affecting yourself. I think it's easier to be able to make those type of decisions.
Yeah.
But when you're starting to put an effect on other people, and you're responsible for other lives and payrolls and different things like that, you want to be courteous and just be smart about
just be a little careful.
Yeah, of course.
A lot more responsibility and things
Yeah,
like that.
100%. And so yeah, and then so moving forward, my brother had his clothing line. Did really well. As I grew as a DJ, I think I hit kind of like a peak of where I wanted to be with my DJ career, and had this gig in Vegas where I headlined, and had like a digital billboard, and like it just gave me this whole man, like this is dope.
Yeah.
But like you can only go so many nights being around people who want you to drink.
So it started taking a toll, like maybe on your mind, your body.
This is like 2012, so yeah, like totally treating my body like crap, like eating super late, like and just going to sleep.
No sleep.
Very little sleep, and this is also the years where Jordan starts to make this huge run, and I start, making good money as a DJ, and I'm only working like 20 hours a week. And like I'm just like, you know what, like start buying shoes, start buying whatever, and then start getting back into the sneaker thing. And it just, I don't know, I just was looking for something new. And my brother, who I forgot, he might have been working at CVS at the time, like as a manager, and he had gotten his degree. And he was just like, man, like I'm over this. Like I'm ready to like
of his brand.
Yeah, of his brand. He wanted to find what the next chapter was, and
I gotcha.
It was always just a side hustle. And he's like, how can I make this like the main hustle? And of course, I supported him however I could, whether if it was putting the shirts on an influential person, or whatever we could figure out. And ultimately, that led us to a conversation where it's like, yo, like, I've kind of learned this stuff. I've kind of have access to more people. You have developed the brand, and you've developed a following. And this is where like, Facebook's taken off. Instagram, I think, just started in 2012. So we decided to join together and open a store in the neighborhood we grew up in, which is at Granada Hills, is where we ended up moving, that neighborhood where my parents had their real estate office. And so we found the space. My brother budgeted the whole thing, and we're like, let's do this. Like, let's do a store. Yeah. And so that was my first exposure to retail. And I, kind of like instinctively just left DJing.
You just kind of just left it?
I was just like, I'm done.
You closed the door.
Like, no more gigs, no more managing bookings for a nightclub. Like, I'm done.
Can you recall what it felt like when you and your brother joined forces and opened up that first store? What was it? What did it feel like? Because it seems like you obviously closed a chapter in your life, and then you wanted to look for the next chapter, and then I'm assuming it brought you and your brother closer together.
So I think it's hard to remember exactly how I felt. What I do know is my parents being super excited for us wanting to work together. Like any brother relationship, like there's hardships and there's times where you don't get along. There's maybe a time where you punch them.
Yeah.
Like there's tough times.
Business is business.
But business then is, a whole different chapter in one's life. And, I think there's different people who are going to give you like different perspectives. Like there's people who are going to say, never do business with family. Yeah. And then there's going to be people that are going to tell you, doing business with family is like one of the greatest gifts that you can be given. And I think for us, we didn't really know what we were getting ourselves into. And I think we realized like a month in, like the challenges that going into this space kind of come to you. And I remember trying to get different brands in there other than just ourselves. We realized like, if we're going to make this, let's call it $1,500 a month rent, right, at the time, how, like, we got to generate at least, $3,000 in sales. You got to do, and these are like small numbers to us now, but at the time, with your own brand,
Just
getting a
starting
following,
out.
social media is like really in this, like, starting to emerge. It's not really there. So that was when we were just trying to figure out, how does this work? You know what I mean? And we didn't even know what a POS system, didn't understand like inventory and a balance sheet and a P&L, like so many different like things that are just essential in running a business.
Yeah.
We were learning kind of on the go. And so I was managing the shop. My brother was still doing his other job to help just kind of support. He would do all the books and things like that. And we just kind of went for it, man. And we got a lot of support.
And this is the first. This is the first Magnolia Park.
This is War.
Okay,
This
War.
is actually a War store.
Still War store. Okay.
Yeah, so this is a War store. This was 2013.
Okay.
When we opened, I think it was like November 2013. And then about a month and a half in, we get introduced into this consignment idea, like sneakers.
Yeah.
And I was like, "What's consignment?" And it was just like, "Oh, like people bring you product, shoes in this case, and we sell it, and we just collect the fee."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, okay, like that's kind of interesting." And then they're like, "Yeah, man, like it's good money. Like shoes are taking off." And I'm like, "Okay, like." I'm like, let me bring it up to my brother.
Yeah, it's like a eBay or something. Like
essentially, but just super concentrated to the product. And so I brought it up to my brother. We thought about it and we made this like, okay, let's give this a shot. Let's see what happens. Surely enough, like I start to fall in love with the sneaker side more than I did on the apparel side, and it consumed me. And I wanted it to work and survive. And it was really early on, and we started to just post shoes on Instagram for sale. And our following started to grow because it was sneaker enthusiasts.
And sneaker culture was booming back then too.
Yeah. So, and I wasn't in any of the groups. Like it was strictly for me. It was like, all right, like Facebook and Instagram, like really catapulted my interest, my access, and my network. And so we just launched the store, and it was like a division or a department inside of the War store.
Gotcha.
And so we kind of gave that space more energy because it seemed to be like in retail.
Was there like more traffic, you'd say, or was it
more
popular?
So like, and that's what I was gonna say. Like for clothes or for a brand that you own, you have to create a following. You have to create the support. You have to create a community.
Yeah.
And in turn, they'll support you.
Yeah.
Sneakers, if you got the product, you got the people.
Seems like a little more universal.
It's just like you got what they want.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so when we introduced that model, we saw a lot more people walking in the store. We saw a lot more interest in just who we were. And so we just ran with it. And 6 months into the business, unfortunately, we ran into a little bit of a wall where the partnership was getting a little shaky with the sneaker side, and business is business. And so my brother and I had to make some really tough decisions, and it pushed us to a lot of pressure. Even when you love each other, like business is tough, man.
Yeah,
and like
definitely.
It'll teach you a lot about not only yourself but about the people around you. And I think we just learned that it was in everyone's best interest to just move on. And we split up with the sneaker side of things.
Gotcha.
And we closed down the shop. And I would like to say, well, I can confidently say that closing down that store made my relationship with my brother stronger than ever. Wow. Because we realized that although we were gaining a couple bucks, and although we were gaining a platform or a following or support, whatever the case may be, it like gaining all that wasn't worth losing our like love and relationship for each other. Yeah. And it took us a while to get to that point, and I'm happy we did. And that's where we had to just figure out what the next step was. And so I had this business plan, this foundation for this sneaker consignment program.
Mm-hmm.
Took it to a spot in Burbank that I had bought my first records at.
Mm-hmm.
The store owner, co-owner at the time, had told me that they wanted to do sneakers at their store.
Nice.
And I just asked, I was like, yo, do you guys have anybody in mind for this? And they're like, actually, we don't. Showed them my business plan. They loved it. They're like, we'll give you like an $800 budget to like create a space at the store.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that $800 budget turned into a couple shelves, a couple calls, turns into 150 pairs of shoes. 150 pairs of shoes turns into 1,000 pairs of shoes in a couple months.
Wow.
And then we end up doing like $500,000 in sales in like 9 months of business out of like 500 square feet.
How did it feel, man? Like, because obviously that I see the way you talk about it. I see like that was obviously a different chapter in your life.
Yeah,
brought you and your brother together, but it was you moved on, and then now it just seemed like you freaking skyrocketed, right?
And that chapter was cool. It helped me understand a lot of things. I'm super grateful for being able to work with that store. It's called Backside. They're no longer in business, unfortunately, but they were a staple of the Valley. They were like, one of the other famous brands in the Valley was Primitive Skate. Like they killed it. And Backside, I felt like was one of those other shops. And so being a part of that history, I think was amazing. It was like a 21-year history that they had. And so I learned a ton from them.
Yeah.
And I was able to take that knowledge with me into the next chapter. But just I don't know. It did take some time for it to take off. And the end result, which is what I always preach to a lot of people, is like, don't get caught up in the chapters. Like, you gotta think about the story as a whole.
Yeah.
And because if you get caught up, you'll never get out of the chapter. Like, it's just gonna be tough. And so don't make it hard on yourself. Just try to think of, your daily deposit. Like, just keep putting into this pot that's gonna tell your story. And so so it was a good chapter. It was super pleasing, and I was grateful for the opportunity to see like what we could do. But like every other chapter, it was also not all like glam and all good times. There's a good amount of drama. There's a good amount of we're gonna sue you for leaving or taking staff and this and that. Which, I was accused for taking staff with me when in reality the staff wanted to leave because, we came in with a young mentality, super heavy on social media, super heavy on like what's next. And, along with the history comes some, lack of wanting to develop. I think
ultimately you guys were just adapting.
Shout out to my boy Kevin Sturdivant. He made this line that he told me. I remember I was like playing tennis with him, and he's just like spitting out bars, like just like things. And I asked him, I was like, man, like what was that thing that where you kind of like just took that turn? Like, when did you decide like I'm done fucking around?
Yeah.
Or what is it that holds you back? And I think that was the most important thing for me, because sometimes I find myself in this space where I'm just like, man, like, I think I'm holding myself back, but why? This self-sabotage, right? And he explained it where it's like, we're not really afraid of the dark. We're afraid of our light. Like, we don't know what it looks like for us to get to that next level.
Uncertainty.
So having that uncertainty, having that fear of like new responsibility, new goals, new expectations, that stuff can really affect our psyche and how we approach the next step. And so I think, there's times where I find myself in that space. But yeah, Backside was a great chapter. And that eventually led us into what became Mag Park. Which was also in Burbank. I partnered up with a gentleman who came into the store as a shopper, and he had just always been in my like, text messages like, hey, if you ever need money, give me a call. And I'm
Oh,
just
it was one
like,
of those.
I
Yeah,
was
just
like,
like
bro, like,
you didn't
nah.
take him serious, and then like all of a sudden he just kind of fell
Yeah,
into
yeah.
the whole
I
thing.
was just like, I'm good, man. Like, I think I've done a good job by myself. Like, I think I don't need this. And then, of course, you just like, all right, like, I know, like, just like, like when you're working out, like, oh, like, I don't think I could ever run 5 miles.
Yeah.
And then you start to run a mile and you're like, oh, this isn't so bad. Like, oh, here's 2, here's 3, you know, you've surpassed the 5K mark. All right, maybe I can do 5 miles. Maybe
Yeah.
I can do a marathon. And so, you know, but sometimes you need that help. You got to eat healthier. You got to like, sleep more. You got to be rested. You got to treat your body right. You got to recover.
Yeah.
And so I think with any business, like you start to get a taste, and you're just like, all right, maybe you know what, I'm gonna eat healthier.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all right, maybe I'm gonna take in some advice. All right, maybe I'm gonna take in new staff. Maybe I'm gonna,
You start being more open-minded, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
because you're just like, how do I get there?
Yeah. Yeah.
And because I've never been there.
Mm-hmm.
How do I get there? Maybe this guy knows because he's got money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and so
must be doing something right.
you're doing something right. And so I took a meeting with him, and we, when we discovered that the store that we were at was being put up for lease, which was a surprise to us. Then I started taking his consideration and just like, different little options that he was presenting, and never took it serious. And then finally we found a spot, and we found a spot that made sense for us, and it was financially the right move. And he came with a team. He had a team of people that has done things like this forever. So it helped me learn and understand and be in the office and just like kind of, you know, find ways to execute on plans and logistics and different things like that. So that's when like the whole bouncing around, like community, Mag Park,
Yeah.
or Magnolia Park turns into Mag Park, and so forth. And so the one thing we knew was we wanted to be this like valley centric space, and we knew that we didn't want to do just consignment or just resell because margins are not great. And so my partner had a ton of relationships with streetwear brands. And so marrying the two worlds together, which hadn't been done, I believe at the time, was something that we wanted to test out.
Yeah.
And so, we started with a couple drawings, and the overall layout of what does Magnolia Park mean, And so we have our elements, which is art, music, sports, and hype. And so all those have developed since then, because back then it was just sneakers.
Yeah.
Now streetwear is a big part of who we are.
Yeah.
The rise of like Supreme and Palace and all these other streetwear brands has molded our business as well, equally just how shoes have. But yeah, man, and we just knew we had to have the different elements in this store. And so in the Burbank flagship location that we opened August 29th, 2015, has 20-foot walls that were like hand painted by this great artist, Alex Ali Gonzalez. We grew up at Brantford Park, so like that's part of the story. My good friend JP, who works at Complex now, he does a lot of the design work for them. He designed our logo.
Nice.
Also from Brantford Park. And so this was like a valley hearted space. The kid, I call him a kid still, but I've had Steven Rodriguez, who's the store manager at Burbank. He's been with me since he was, gosh, what has it been now? It's been 3 years. So he was like 20 when he first came in. And he was just an intern, like when he started with me at Backside. And like now he's like if I'm doing this podcast, I don't have to worry about the store burning down because
he's handling the
he can
business
handle
there.
the business no problem.
Yeah.
And he's an incredibly intelligent guy, and I don't think Mag Park would be where it is without him.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I don't think, a coincidence that his birthday is shared with Mag Park.
Uh-huh.
So
nice.
That's part of the story there. And so yeah, man, really, Mag Park was just built off the community around those elements. And we came out in 2015 and got some support from some amazing people. Guys like Ben Baller. I remember early on, Travis Scott came through, DJ Mustard. I mean, a ton of different celebs, artists, or just influential people that started to just show love because it was a quite a bit laid back type of vibe. Yeah. And our store isn't like every other store. Like,
I was gonna say it seemed probably different, right?
Yeah, I would say so because, and this isn't a shot to anybody else because I think every store has their character or their personalities. Because I also think that, and I've always said this, like, product doesn't determine your success. Yeah. Because if I was determined on product, I would lose that battle every day of the week. Yeah. It's not about my inventory. It's about two things: my people, so my staff, the personality, customer service, and it's the experience. Yeah. What's your shopping experience? Yeah. In our case, we have a half-court basketball court. We have the artwork. You have the DJ booth. You have 2 floors. It's not just a store with sneakers on a wall. Yeah. It's
not just shelves. It's
right. It's not just shelves. It's experience. And so if you're able to come in and, you want a new basketball shoe to actually play basketball in, you can actually try it out, and we won't trip on you. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain
like,
shoes.
Hey, sir, you don't mind if I do a crossover real quick? Yeah. So Mag Park is definitely, I was going to say, different. And like you said, that's cool. Like, it seems like your whole world, like the story, like where you grew up, the culture, basketball, sneakers, music, it's all in there. And definitely it's different. Like you said, you guys are a much different store than everybody else, not just like, just having shelves and the...
Yeah, and I think that's what's needed today in retail. I think it's easy to go and find the best price online or in an app or whatever. Yeah. And that's like a whole different battle that we're learning to fight now. We've adjusted immensely over the last 3 years. And so I think what continues to hold us in the right light and give us confidence in the future is essentially the brand that we've built and the experience that we've been able to create as well. And so
I was just going to ask you, when you started to get in the consignment and all that stuff, was there any and we just talked about doubt and fear, was there any hesitation of it being such a competitive market, or were you just doubling down on no, Mag Park is different, we have this identity, we have this, this is our story here?
So there's two answers to that, actually. The first answer is no. We were never worried about competition because we were the store from the valley. Okay. And it goes back to that. Okay. In that sense, right? And I think we just always knew and we were confident, still confident in who we are, in our personality and our staff and just the experience as a store. We definitely bet big. You know what I mean? Like, building out that first store was really expensive. Where the answer to that question is yes is when we expanded. Okay. And where we decided to make an attempt to disrupt other markets really early in our career, if you will, and you could say it's, in terms of what I have envisioned for this business, it's still early, right? It's been 3 years, but when you think about it, we opened our flagship August 29th, 2015. We opened a pop-up on Fairfax June 21st, 2016.
Good old Fairfax.
to even think about a second location,
Mm-hmm.
let alone a pop-up. And like a pop-up is typically a month,
Yeah.
like, or 2 months, 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
But then we went a year and a couple months,
Wow.
like with that pop-up. And it was incredibly successful for us and Hall of Fame. Shout out to Hall of Fame. Shout out to Arson for all the opportunities there. And it was great, but it was also like, wow, like we are really
Mm-hmm.
going for it.
Yeah.
And
It kind of gave you the green light. Like you knew, like, wow, like we've built this mass audience. We have people, like this pop up is like doing amazing.
yeah,
Right.
and I gotta shout out my boy Kais Omar. He's a big YouTuber. He was developing his voice and brand right like when we were as well.
Yeah.
And I think it was one of those crazy things where just like we're both kind of running the same race in different avenues,
Mm-hmm.
and we were able to just come together at the right time to help push each other's brands to the next level, whether it was us helping him with access to products, or it was him using his growing audience
Mm-hmm.
to help expose them to us.
Yeah.
And we don't work as often together. He's doing some really amazing things now,
Mm-hmm.
but he's a family supporter. When we do have the opportunity to work together, we do, and it's crazy to just see like how those things have continued to evolve. And
Yeah.
of course, you start to see new shops popping up and everything else. So it did get a bit competitive, but I think for us, it's always just been, and I say this all the time, like we have no competition. And I say that in the sense of not any sort of arrogance, not any sort of like, nah, y'all can't fuck with us. Like it's literally comes
Yeah.
from your only competition is yourself. And
Absolutely.
as corny as that is for people who don't understand it, because it's gonna be corny to those that don't get it, because they're not in that right mentality. They're not, or I'm sorry, I'm not gonna tell you if it's right or wrong. You're just not in that same mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not on the same page, because at the end of the day, what you control is in your reach. What's out of your reach, you can't change. So I can't care about somebody else's opinion, just like, and if it affects me, like on what I can control, like I'm going to live a terrible life. And so for us, I always tell my staff, like, I don't care what you see. I don't care what comment you see. I don't care what this person is saying about us. Like, do the best to your ability, what's within your control.
Mm-hmm.
I have this perspective of just not everybody's gonna like me.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody's gonna understand what's going on with me. I use my platform to share the things that help everybody kind of either grow,
Mm-hmm.
or whether it's an inspiration or whether it's simple conversation, whatever the case may be. But I think I try to focus on what I can do,
Mm-hmm.
and to the best of my ability, and I will do my best to have everyone have a great experience, or be able to at least say, you know what, Mickey was a stand-up dude, or Mickey's like helpful, or whatever the case may be. And but you can't focus on the things that are out of like
Mm-hmm.
your realm. Really.
Yeah.
You see different things happening in business. Excuse me. Farfetch acquires Stadium Goods. Go acquires Flight Club.
Yeah, yeah. All these
There's
apps, right? All the
crazy
apps and stuff,
things happening, And so I'm really interested to see what the next chapter is for all of us. Not just us.
It's always evolving, right? The game, I guess we could say, yeah.
And that's why, like, I'm just interested to see what's next for everybody, not just us.
Yeah.
Like, everybody's gonna have their own story. Everybody's gonna have their own route.
Yeah, their own lane and
Curious
stuff.
to know what happens. Yeah.
What's we're gonna be running out of time here soon. I do want to ask you, because it just you're a very cool guy. I mean, just your story. It seems like within your whole journey, you've amassed a lot of different relationships. A lot of I guess partnerships,
Mm-hmm.
and I could just tell by listening to you there was a lot of maturity that happened. Definitely, like we started talking about the mental block, the doubt, all that stuff. How do you think those relationships that you've, you know, been able to create and maintain has really helped you propel in your journey, your as a person and also in your business.
So,
Because not a lot of people are just relationship people, I guess you could say, right? Not everybody could get that connection, or And
yeah. No, you know what's funny about that is, so last night, just last night, I
Mhm.
saw this post on Facebook. I'm like hardly ever on Facebook.
I was gonna say Facebook.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
On the book. But I actually have a time limit on my Facebook now. It's like, which is like 30 minutes, like, which is crazy. Like 30 minutes a day. That's all I'm allowed. Instagram, I just always hit ignore. But I was on Facebook, and one of my buddies who DJs out in Texas, he put up this post where he's like, don't get offended if you don't get booked, because it's not about your skills. It's about who you are more, right? Like, it's about
Yeah.
who you are. And I wrote on there, I was like, man, I'm surprised that you even have to explain this. Like today, 2018, like to speak into the DJ side of things, like it's all about shaking hands, being around. Like to this day, like I'm still DJing, I'm still getting approached to be booked. I'm not calling, texting, or asking anybody to get booked anywhere.
Yeah.
Like I don't care for that
Mhm.
because it's not my main source of income anymore.
Yeah.
I love the hustle. I respect the hustle. I'm not saying anybody else who's still DJing 24 hours, like have nothing, like I have incredibly successful friends who have made a career out of DJing. But for me, you know, I take pride in my relationships.
Absolutely.
I nurture them.
Mhm.
Like, it's like a plant. You got to water it. You got to feed it. You got to make sure it's getting the right light. You know what I mean? Like you can't, and if you can't water it too much or it's going to die, it's going to drown. Like you got to you got to have the right amount of just like relationship and follow through or whatever the case may be. Because really some of the, biggest secrets in life is just don't be an asshole.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Just don't be a dick. Like, um, don't absorb in your fame. Don't absorb in, and I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about just at different levels. Like, you can't get absorbed in how many followers you got.
Mm-hmm.
Your likes don't determine who actually likes you.
Yeah.
Like, who follows you doesn't mean you can, like, just because you have a lot of followers doesn't mean you can lead.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's many different elements to developing relationships and doing the right thing. And I think in the DJ side of things, you just got to be a good dude. You got to reflect personality.
Yeah.
Like there's tons, and it sucks to say this, but there's tons of DJs skilled enough. I'm not saying there's great DJs out there, but there's enough skilled DJs in this world where it's just it's a flock.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how would you even pick what's the right guy, right? Yeah. Budget might determine that, but like it's easy to pick. Now, if you're that guy that I see you every night, every other weekend, you're just there hanging out, you shake hands, you have a couple conversations, you get to know the person. Finally, they're gonna be like, "What do you do?" Like, "Oh, I DJ."
Yeah.
"Oh, man, I book the DJs."
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, cool," right? Like, and same thing in this world. Like, I think in the business world, like I don't open up with who I am. Like, mm-hmm. I don't open up with what I'm about. I'm not opening up with, do you want some free shoes? You know what I mean? Like now, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not dumb. Like, I know people of influence that have like tried or they develop a relationship with me and they're just like, well, he owns a sneaker store. Let's see when he like shoots me something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's definitely some of that. But I think you gotta, in this day and age, what could have been considered like kissing ass or like brown nosing or doing whatever, like, man, like unfortunately and fortunately, like there's like a dance, like, mm-hmm. and you understand how you can help each other. And I think the main thing about developing relationships is just learning how to elevate together. And the way that's helped me personally and the way that's helped me in business is really where I focus my energy on the people that bring me more energy and get away from those that suck the energy away from me, right? Like there's
You're
people
an energy guy, huh? I could tell.
I'm for sure vibes. Like,
Okay.
you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I come in to a room, I observe mostly. I soak in like what's going on, and I kind of stay quiet for the most part.
Yeah.
And then I pick and choose when it's time to say something, and more than likely I'll be able to have some perspective or some sort of deposit into the conversation or just the space in the room. I definitely am that guy that's going to try and make somebody laugh and say something really stupid. And like, that's just who I am. Like,
yeah.
that's who my dad is. It's a reflection of my dad. And I think that's what I'm about. And so, going back to the energy thing and just like, for someone to apply this to maybe their life, I remember reading something about like kind of like the rule of thirds, where it's like you spend a third of your time with someone who you can motivate, maybe somebody who isn't where you are just yet. They look up to you, they're inspired by you, and that gives you a sense of, okay, I know where you've been, and I'm grateful for knowing that I've been there and I am where I am today, and I can help this person get to where I'm at.
Kind of like giving back a little bit.
Exactly. Then there's the guy who's like just like you, right? He might be 10, 11 episodes in on a podcast, and it's just like, how do we get to 1 million subscribers or whatever the case may be, right? Like someone who you're like, yo, like I did this today. Oh man, I'll do that today. Like, and you can push each other, and you're running together.
Yeah.
And then there's that that like-mindedness and that person that you can relate to. And then you're going to need the last person, was just most of the time the hardest person to get in your life, which is the person that motivates you, inspires you, that you look up to, where you want to be.
Yeah.
They've reached the goals that you're like, man, one day I got to do that.
Yeah.
And so I got to say, like, I'm in a very interesting spot where I've had a lot of people who I look up to become peers in the sense of access. Right? Like I can text somebody who I look up to and just ask them a question.
Yeah.
I'm going through this thing. How do I navigate through that?
Yeah.
Oh, I've been there before. Do this and do that. And once you find those people and you spend an equal amount of time with each three of those like categories, you see your life like
slowly shift, right?
Start projecting and start to change your mindset. And even for me recently, like I joined a Bible study just to get my spirit right. And I think those things all just really dictate how I look at things. I've never been the best boss, in emotional moments. I let the emotion get best of me. And I'm like, I need to improve that. How can I improve that? Well, it starts with my mind. Okay, well, what's going on in my mind? Well, I'm stressed and I'm thinking about a million things. Okay, how do I calm that down? Well, I need to go to my spirit. My spirit needs to be in touch with peace. How do I get to peace? And so I start to deposit more time into how to develop my peace. And from there, I foresee a plan to be able to get to a point where how I carry myself, how I speak, how I lead, right? Versus like, I'm not trying to dictate. I'm not trying to like tell you what to do. I'm pretty sure I can count on one hand, maybe two, how many times I've ever told somebody, you have to do it because I'm your boss. Right?
Yeah.
And in some worlds, that's touchy in the sense of like, I get it. There's people who have to make it clear, like there's roles. Yeah. But, I'm also not the one to say like, you got to do it because I said so. Yeah. Like, it's not about that. Like, we're in this together. You know what I mean? I'll never ask somebody to do something I can't do myself. Yeah, like you guys are a team. Like really, it's just no I in team, right? Yeah, it's just straight up. Right? Exactly. So, man, dude. So
last question. What's next for Mag Park, man? You guys open up a couple stores. Obviously, the game's changing a little bit. You guys have a very unique story. I love it, man. I love everything that how you explained it. Just really like you see it now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like the identity of who you guys are. What's next for you guys?
So it's funny. Driving up here, I wanted to find that way to I don't know, make the podcast or this conversation unique. So here's a little bit of insight. Maybe not an announcement, but it's definitely something that I've spoken to a couple of people, and people see our expansion. People see what we've gone through, and there's a lot of hearsay like about what's happened with our company and why we've been able to expand so quickly. And so
like, what are they up to?
Yeah, always. And so I think the main thing with us is I took in investment in 2017. It was a large number, and that was part of the we're going to grow fast model. Now, I'll say this for any entrepreneurs or anybody listening who wants to scale their business or take it to the next step. When you work with people, the most important thing that I've learned in my life or my career has been how to work with people.
Absolutely.
Not everybody works the same, unfortunately. You know what I mean? You're going to get frustrated with people that don't work like you. You're going to get frustrated with people that don't really see your perspective. But I think if you're able to stay calm, stay cool, and stay true to what you think is your truth and what you think is right, stay there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Until there's ways for you to understand and learn and then approve that, go forward. So to my point of what's next, when we took in that investment, we opened up and got to 5 locations. I haven't addressed this recently, but our store in Las Vegas was we opened in May, and that was a partnership with my former partners that go under a different name. And that was our first time kind of trying things out as a brand, but having logistics being ran behind house by a different team. Long story short, yeah, right. Long story short, we decided that it was best for us to move in different directions. Because what I've come to realize in this company is that it's heavily dependent on my presence. And I'm not saying physically, I mean just being more involved from the day-to-day stuff. And I think that's what we currently need now versus what we might need in the future. I've traveled a lot the last year, and you kind of get caught up in the fun and like the growth and the different opportunities, and you miss some of the different spots. Like the location we have on Melrose, has been great for us. And but we've also experienced some staff taking off, and those are things that will happen in any business, and you have to learn how to accommodate. And so Melrose, although it's done well for us, it also isn't like paying everybody's bills.
I see.
In the sense of like, it's cool, but it's not really a rocket ship.
It's just like staying afloat.
It's just there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And sometimes you just have to understand the energy, the overhead. And I think that's what people are understanding now, even more so with the apps, is that you're getting rid of the overhead. You're getting rid of the liabilities. And I think for us, it just, you got to make the smarter decisions.
Yeah.
And so this is the first time I'm really saying it anywhere is, we're going to move away from that space.
Melrose.
Okay. To this day, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do at Buena Park. And Vegas is no longer a part of our immediate family. I wish them the best and that location. I think they're going to do great. And, they're still extended family, if you will. But we're no longer working together on that project. And so what I really want to do is just continue to develop the brand and become that Valley guy, or continue to be the Valley guy that we were kind of destined to be in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why I would even share this first out loud is because I think it's important to embrace the differences, because I could have an ego and not address things, or just like move along like they just never happened.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think as an entrepreneur, sometimes you just have to be smart, and you have to also share your, and I don't even call them losses, like, because people on the outside world will say, oh, like they're failing, or it didn't work.
Oh, like,
or
man, he's struggling, or just something, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's like, I'm not afraid to talk about it, because at the end of the day, like if I had an ego, like I'd be concerned about that.
Yeah.
I don't care what people think. What I care about is keeping my staff, right, with a job, keeping the brand moving forward. And what I have envisioned is much greater than 4 stores, 5 stores, whatever. Like the bigger plan is the bigger plan.
Yeah.
And so when the time is right, we will do that. But sometimes, we might have chose to scale at a time where we were literally going up against giants.
Yeah.
Like a StockX, like a Go, who are raising huge amounts of money. And you try to fight that fight, and it just makes sense to just, like, I need to bring my expenses down and focus on what's working the best.
Yeah, yeah.
And
do what's best for you.
Yeah. And so, Burbank, Topanga, Buena Park, they do bring the best experience, I think. And I have a ton of strategic partnerships that I cannot announce, but those are in the works, and I'm super excited for the next chapter. I think leaner, meaner, like version of us is needed, and after 3 years, you're kind of like, all right, where is this new sense of energy? Yeah. What's our next step?
What's next? Yeah.
So for us, it's honestly scaling down a little bit so that we can scale higher than the ceiling we kind of put on ourselves in the beginning. So
nice, man.
Excited for that.
Well, one thing I appreciate you for sharing it here on this podcast of some of the stuff that you have for the future. I'm also very excited to see where your journey takes you, man. I appreciate you coming on the podcast, man. Guys, Mickey War, they could find you on Instagram at
hey Mickey War, HEYMIKIWAR, and then at the Mag Park, THEMAGPARK. And it's themagpark.com if you want to shop.
Sounds good. Mickey, I appreciate you making the drive, man. All that stuff, man. I appreciate you being on the episode, man. Guys, if you guys are listening, you guys can watch the conversation that just took place on YouTube, but otherwise you can stream it on every podcast platform. Man, dude, happy New Year's to everybody, even though this is not going to be aired probably until January. Do want to wish everybody happy New Year's. When you guys do listen, please take a screenshot of this episode, tag me and Mickey, let us know what you think. And that's it. Good vibes, everybody. God bless. And again, happy New Year.
Yes, sir.